We today, as I've said in past teachings, we are coming to the end of our 40-year probationary period since the Iranian Revolution and the fall and takeover of this United States government. We are now coming to the cataclysmic final end where this government is trying to take over other sovereign nations through terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism using ISIS, going against other nations. And we are coming towards the end of our probationary period when there is going to be a judgment upon this generation and those housed within this nation, that if we don't get our exodus right, then we will fall prey to FEMA camps and all of that which comes with it. And to whom did he swear that they should enter into his rest, verse 18? But to them that believe not. So we see that they could not enter in because of unbelief. Finishing up here, you see, the death of Yeshua himself is called an exodus. An exodus. The death of Yahushua is called an exodus in Luke chapter 9, verse 31 in the Greek. Our life, our trials, our temptations, and our deliverance are foreshadowed through the Exodus account. 1 Corinthians 10 tells us that. We are the assembly. Truly today, we are the assembly in the wilderness. Today, only if you will hear his voice. Our mikveh, our baptism, our ritual immersion was foreshadowed by Israel's passage through the Red Sea. Our feeding on Messiah's flesh, well, that was foreshadowed by Israel's nourishment with the manna. And the blood, which we're supposed to drink, well, that was foreshadowed by Israel's nourishment on that water that came from the rock. Their life truly began with their exodus, and our life truly began with Yahushua's exodus, his death in Jerusalem. Just as Israel was put into a probationary period for 40 years after their exodus, our audience that the writer of the book of Hebrews is writing to, they are now living in their probationary period of 40 years. It was about 40 years after Yahushua's exodus that they were living, and they were coming to the very climatic end of their probationary period. And that was the sense of urgency. Today, if you hear his voice, because tomorrow the temple might fall down. Because they were coming to the end of their 40-year probationary period. Therefore, it was a sense of urgency that if they did not cross over with ritual immersion and come into the commonwealth of faith, then they would face the judgment which was death upon that generation. Likewise, we today, as I've said in past teachings, we are coming to the end of our 40-year probationary period since the Iranian Revolution and the fall and takeover of this United States government. We are now coming to the cataclysmic final end where this government is trying to take over other sovereign nations through terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism using ISIS, going against other nations. And we are coming towards the end of our probationary period when there is going to be a judgment upon this generation and those housed within this nation, that if we don't get our exodus right, then we will fall prey to FEMA camps and all of that which comes with it. So we have to be prepared. We have to be ready. If we can hear his voice, today is that day. Even in Qumran literature, there was an expectation of the 40 years between the death of the religious teacher and the consuming of all men of war who returned with the man of falsehood. You see, we're living, I believe, in a parallel reality to those in Kadesh Barnea. We're living in a parallel reality to the audience of the book of Hebrews, not only in light of the upcoming 40-year physical judgment upon our generation, when our government got sold out after the Iranian Revolution, which with that, you're going to get all of the Islamic pushback because of that. And that's what's happening. It's been fermented. And it is not by coincidence we have a Jesuit pope in these last days. A Jesuit pope. If you look at how the Jesuits are connected and fermenting this and have been fermenting this for centuries, we have to see that you and I are going to face intense resistance that parallels the opposition that the children of Israel faced from the inhabitants of the land. And it parallels the persecution the Hebrews audience suffered. Why? What do we have in common with the audience and the wilderness generation? You and I, we have severed our relationship with the established religious systems. The wilderness generation, they severed their relationship with the established religious systems of Egypt. The Hebrews audience, they had severed their relationship with the established Levitical hierarchy religious systems. And you and I, we have severed our relationships with the established Christian doctrine and messianic dogma and doctrines that many of you have been a part of for the past decade or so, trying to seek out the truth and realizing that just leads you back into Levitical hierarchy and Jewish genealogy chasing. You see, it really is a time where we have renounced the establishment's religions, and therefore we will incur the wrath of that religious community, sometimes just with passing conversations with friends and sometimes with foes. For me, I've experienced it from the Messianic community, and of course, before that, the traditional Calvary Chapel community that I came out of. And for you, well, all of you, you have your own stories of how you were plucked out. But our author admonishes us, believe, stay the course, and stick with Yahweh, and you will be secure. Because ultimately, he has given us the victory at Yahushua's exodus.